So, welcome everybody. We are so glad you're here. Some weeks, it just seems like I treasure these times even more than other times. And this is one of those weeks where I just feel so blessed to have each and every one of you here. I'm Jan Jeremias for those who don't know me, and for those out there listening to the recording. And for over 20 years, I've combined my clinical research background and my passion for holistic wellness to support people and their pets towards better health and wellness. And today, I'm really happy to be here with my dear collaborator, co host, and friend, Mary Jane. And I'm also, as I mentioned, truly grateful and feel so blessed to have each and every one of you here today. And I'll pass it to you, Mary Jane. And welcome to Prudence.
Yes. Yes. Welcome, Prudence. Yeah, thank you, Jen. Um, so hi everyone. I know most here know who I am, but for the purpose of recording, I am Mary Jane or MJ, um, the founder of MJ McQueen Creative Studio. And that's where I get to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to step into their light and share their gifts with authenticity and joy. And I guide people to move past their self doubt, discover their true voice, and create visuals that reflect the heart of their mission. Because when you connect deeply with your true self, you naturally connect more deeply with others. As always, it's an honor to be here with you and to share this space with my dear friend and collaborator, Jan Jeremias, who really does inspire me every single day to shine brightly. And together with all of you, I feel we're weaving a vibrant tapestry as each week we are adding new colors, textures, and stories through our conversations and meditations. So thank you again for being part of Spirit Born Imaginings. This morning we wanted to share a beautiful poem that speaks to seeing the world really with a sense of wonderment and gratitude and the beacons that guide us along the way. And it's called They Whisper Secrets of the Universe to Me, and it's by Indra Raj Pathak. And it reads like this: Twinkling stars guide in a moonless night, a wondrous sight that fills me with delight. Their gentle glow illuminates my way as I journey the dark and stray. Each star a beacon shining bright, a guiding light that leads me right. Their distant twinkle like a friendly smile that greets me as I walk for miles. The darkness around is deep and dense, but the stars above, they make sense. With every step, my trust in them grows as they guide me towards a new dawn's rose. They whisper secrets of the universe to me, and I listen carefully. In awe, I see the majesty of the cosmos on display through the twinkling stars that light my way. Twinkling stars guide in moonless night, a symphony of light against the dark. Their distant flickers shine so pure and bright, as though they were a lover's burning spark. The darkness echoes with a quiet hum, and peaceful stillness settles all around. The stars above, a glittering kingdom, their light a blanket on the quiet ground. Each beam a promise of hope and wonder, a world beyond the reaches of our sight. And though we may sometimes feel asunder, the stars remind us all will be all right. In the quiet stillness of the night, the stars they shine so pure and bright, a reminder of the wonder and magic that surrounds us all and is so tragic. For in the bustle of our daily life, we forget to look up and see the strife. But the twinkling stars, they guide us through, a reminder that the world is big and new. Cherish this magical sight the twinkling stars that guide us right. And remember that in the darkest of night, we can always find our way with their light. Let us bask in their celestial glow and revel in their endless mystery. For as the night begins to ebb and flow, the stars remain our guide, our history.
It's so beautiful. Thank you, Mary Jane. So welcome everyone to you and the universe, an intentional path to co-creation. We are so grateful you've arrived here in this moment, in this virtual circle. Today is more than a gathering. It's an opening, a doorway into a conversation already happening between you and the universe. Whether you felt it as a whisper in your heart, a spark of inspiration, or a nudge you couldn't ignore, you are here because something is calling you forward. The universe is not far away, it is right here, breathing with you, shaping with you. It moves in the synchronicities, encounters, the quiet knowing that arrives when you least expect it. At every moment, it is collaborating with you through the people you meet, the opportunities that appear, the sunbursts of inspiration, and yes, even the challenges that invite you to grow. It is always offering, always listening to your voice, and your voice matters because the more intentional and honest you are, clear in your words, clear in your energy, willing to feel your vision as though it already lives within you, the more the universe can rise to meet you. Every thought, every feeling, every act of trust becomes an invitation for it to respond. This path of co-creation asks something of you, to be intentional in what you ask for, to be clear, not just in language, but in your actions, your expectations, and your emotional energy, to feel what you desire as a living, breathing truth, not a far off wish. And today, we are not here to simply speak to you. We want to hear your voice, your ideas, your experiences of creating with the universe as your partner. We want to explore together what happens when your vision meets its infinite possibilities, when human will and cosmic flow meet in harmony. So let us step into this time with open hearts and listening spirits. Let us speak our desires with courage and clarity. Let us listen to the ways of the universe. And let us listen to the ways that the universe says yes. Because here in this space between you and the stars, creation is not just possible, it's already begun. It's already happening.
So beautiful, Jen. Thank you for sharing that inspiration. It is such a beautiful thing to realize because sometimes in the middle of challenges or when things are happening around us and we things that we may not always understand or are still striving for, um, it's nice to have that sense of the things are already happening, that it's already here, that it's whatever, as they say, is whatever is meant for you is already here. Um, so just to know that for me, that just gives me a sense of courage and uplift and inspiration in feeling that it's already happening and the belief that it is happening as it's meant to. So I know for For a few of us, it's been a quite a challenging week, and I know we all go through those phases of things, but it's just for me, that's the hope, the desire, the wish, the dream that that is what is actually happening, even though I may not be able to see it right now.
Thanks so much, Mary Jane. I think one of the things that really, as we spoke about this kind of topic last week, and we were talking about this idea of a hope or a wish. And I think what's so resonated with me about when we were speaking was the fact that, of hope, or if you want to call it faith or a wish being like an active word and not a passive kind of wish or hope. Was this feeling that it was active. There was intention behind it, and there was thought behind it, and there was some sort of energetic, could be, other participation, but something energetic, like an energetic participation that was occurring in that intention or wish or desire. It wasn't passive in any form. It was like this action of like a firm act of hope, which um, can be like, I hope for this, which is somewhat like kind of in the background is a sort of like a dream that you like kind of question whether it's going to happen or not. Um, or it can be a much more active, like where some part of you contributes or the entire of you contributes to whatever you want to come about. And I think that that's where when we were talking about choosing this topic, that's really where it started to kind of come to me and really kind of formulate was this kind of active, um, that hope or a wish being an action word versus just, sitting back and kind of saying like the universe will take care of it. Seamus.
Yeah, thanks, John. This ties into a conversation and some thoughts I suppose I've been having for quite a while now. But to a conversation I had with Jason just earlier on as well today. And the three words that are coming to mind is kind of as you read the poem and as you just shared what you've just shared, John, the idea of we're creators has come into mind, and a book that again I've mentioned a couple of times that goes back to two books recently that are very big influences, I suppose, of helping me to kind of think beyond where I was currently. Was Jack Cornfield, like the wise heart, and this other book called Presencing from Otto Scharmer that both come together at a really nice time, and they talk about being the observer, being the observed, and being the actor, and we're creators basically when we're operating from that space. And I think that's kind of what's coming to mind as you were sharing around. We sometimes get lost in what seems like the chaos of our busy externally lived lives, but I think there's great power in allowing us to become the observer beneath the chaos basically. And I think that's what's coming to mind in today's conversation is around the power of three words in particular that Otto Scharmer talks about that were coming to mind as you were speaking, like attention, intention, and agency. And when we create the space to attend to and not get lost. And this is kind of what I've been thinking about lately is, our attention is being sought in so many ways in an externally busy, focused world. Our attention is everything. Our attention is being commoditized by social media and this externally busy world. It's vying for our attention every second. But actually, when we turn our attention on attending to, rather than giving in to being lost because our attention is being given away, or we simply feel forced into losing our attention. But when we intentionally attend to and observe what's going on within ourselves, I think that can be a great way of seeing literally the bigger picture and seeing things with more clarity. When we attend to and observe what's going on as an observer within ourselves, and then begin to act with true intention from the clarity that comes from that, um, from the action of becoming more attentive and honoring, if you want, like what's going on within ourselves. And then from the combination of that attention, from the combination of clarity, from the combination of, then you feel empowered to act with an intention that you mightn't have felt empowered to act from before, through that clarity. And then, that's when the beauty of action that serves you and serves everyone else emerges, like in terms of agency. Through that is the outcome, I suppose, of attuned attention, of operating from a space of intention within yourself. And when you're operating from that energy or from that space, the actions you take will serve you in limitless ways, I think, in terms of, operating and taking steps and action that creates your future reality, than feeling that you're operating in a place that you feel lost in your reality. So yeah, that's just kind of what's coming to mind right now, Jan, as well, in terms of the power we have to create, I suppose, versus the power we often might feel like that we're lost, I suppose.
No, thank you, Seamus. And a few of the things that you said that really attend to your attention. So that just came to my mind. And then the other thing is that powerful place we hold when we can, and we know this, when we slow down and we pause. And the power that we gather in and we observe within ourselves when we allow ourselves that opportunity to actually look there versus look at the chaos around us. And sometimes, that's not necessarily depending on where you are in time and space and what's happening in your life. Sometimes that pause is a challenging place, but it always ends up um, reaping in some way some sort of benefit, as you give it time. And, being in that sort of really, when you're in that stressed mode, pausing is not necessarily easy, nor is it like welcome for us. I mean, it's uncomfortable. There's a lot going on. We have so many things in our heads and our thoughts that are kind of like bombarding us. And but yeah, if we even like over time, over a period of days or a period like over a day, if we allow ourselves to kind of get to that space, then usually we have the space to actually sit down and think about, what we want, what we can collaborate with in regard to the universe, what we're open to receiving, um, because we will get all that, you know. We also have to be open to it. That's the other thing that I think happens, when we get too trapped in one way of thinking or one scenario, there's no space for co-creation at all.
That's so true, Jan, what you're saying. I was just thinking sort of along that same line. Is just like, you know, there's no space for co-creation. It's back to the same theme that we've talked about before. It's about letting go of the control and realizing that we aren't always in control of what's happening, but that's okay because it's a blessed collaboration. It's not a push and a pull and a struggle with the universe because these things are happening as they're meant to happen, and even though sometimes we can't see the reason behind it or we don't want to see, but it's just that it's like what I was saying earlier in the chat was this just that really that it's about leaning in with trust and belief when we can't always see the way, and realizing that there are other forces, other energies at work that are working for our greater benefit.
I just the phrase that just came to mind is seeing is the way.
Hmm. I guess we have to be open. We have to be open to seeing it in a way that we're not expecting, because sometimes we
Right.
expect to see it in a certain way, and only when we trust and lean in do we see it, perhaps see it in the way that it's meant to be. Let it
Hmm.
go.
You know, the way
I
is the
think it's just back to, yeah, it's back to observing, like, and again, yeah, the way is the way, like, you know what I mean? I think, and just accepting that, yeah, what's in the way is the way, you know, and
That's
that I think that's something we've mentioned before, and really, like as I say, like Mary Jane, leaning in and not avoiding, you know, the obstruction or the obstacle, which kind of sounds kind of counterintuitive. It's kind of, that's where the power is. Like that is the pathway, that is the solution, is to have the courage. Like again, the courage, we've often talked about the courage here. It's about the courage to observe, like, you know, to acknowledge, okay, this is the obstacle. I'm I'm going to have the courage to not try and go around it. I'm having the courage to try and get beneath it, understand it, engage with it, like, you know, and allow it to emerge. Those lovely E words that we talked about before, Jan, like engage and emerge.
right.
And then when you have the courage to kind of engage with, acknowledge, get curious with, and then it's from that space of engagement that solutions emerge, that you create the space through the energy of that engagement of not avoiding, but actually engaging with, that solutions emerge from the least expected space, like through that process, I think. And that comes back maybe to the attention, the courage, the intention, and then the solutions or the action through that action or through that agency emerge in a way that it could not possibly have emerged before, because we would have been avoiding rather than engaging. And I think easier said than done, as I said earlier, but I think it's through practice and through, you know, that's how we learn and grow, is having the courage to engage with something we felt we couldn't engage with before, and then experiencing, oh God, I'm so glad I had the courage to go and get curious with that something that I didn't really know what, that scared me, but I had the courage to go in, examine, get curious with. And now I can see the benefit of that in lived experience and solutions that emerge and all the rest that goes with that process, I guess, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think once we open, like once we do have the ability, like we are able to go in. And even if like what we're seeing is not as clear as it should be, but and it could be the image that always comes to my mind is like dipping your foot in the water. You know, it's kind of like you visit it. It's like, and then maybe you step back and then you step in again and maybe you go a little bit deeper and you're like, oh, okay. And you gain some other sort of wisdom. And then maybe someone is sent to you, you know, like, you know, you have a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden they're like, oh, and that kind of reinforces or just kind of establishes and gets, you know, like, okay, you know, about options and possibilities and ideas, which now you're creating. And so you then, but and then maybe you dip in a little further and you keep on dipping in to go deeper. And I mean, I like that idea versus you know, many life circumstances which kind of, you know, we're basically drowning and then we like have to figure out a way out. And I think human beings are really interesting in this sense. So many of us have to wait till we're drowning until we kind of lift our, like, think of moving on or looking at something. And, you know, Seamus and I had a conversation earlier in the week with Hans, and then I spoke to Hans again, and we were talking about it. Like, what, like, why does it take people so long to take action or to actually look at something, and how severely do they have to be like, you know, hit over the head basically and say, you know, be told to pay attention before they pay attention? Jason, please.
Yeah, I think the word that comes up for me is surrender. Um, Listening to all of you or the conversation so far, and just this kind of theme come about the things that we can control, and the reality is that we can't control any of it, and In fact, I think we become in control when we realize that we don't control any of it. Then that's when we're in this moment of surrender, of uh, you know, meaning that the universe is going to put in front of us, um, it goes back to this energy thing and intentions. And I forget, I saw a clip, and I think it was Morgan Freeman, and he has such a wonderful, godlike voice in his attention. And he said something like, if you ask, and I think he's speaking of God, but for our conversation, I'm going to say the universe. If you ask the universe for hope, then the universe puts you in a place to find hope. If you ask the universe for protection, then the universe puts you in a place to help you discover and lean into protection, or find it, right? And so, yeah, I just love this conversation. And Seamus and I were talking earlier today, just before the call, and it really is about this perception and reality and time and space, and um, that we do get so busy in the things that are happening outside of us. But the reality is that we can all be in the same room and have a different perspective of what's happening or what's going on because of our lived experiences, our intentions, our thoughts, our energy. And so I just, again, surrendering to the moment of just it, experiencing what is going on, is such a beautiful place to be. And like you mentioned, Jan, it's like you stick your toes in the water, and then you're testing it, but then it's like going back and forth between the heart and the mind. And when you can surrender and just kind of immerse, um, then it is a beautiful space, and it can be scary.
I agree. I think it can be very, very scary. Um, One of the things that just came to mind was just this idea of like we're talking about that opening up. And I think that's releasing control is a hard thing um, for many people. I think that, fear is a huge emotion that comes in when you release control and you have no kind of thoughts or ideas about how like something might unfold. And I think that's part of the reason we stay in situations that are so bad for so long. We know them, they may be horrible, but we know what it is. And there's this fear around kind of stepping off the cliff and just, with that element of faith and knowing that you're supported, and not in a passive way, just almost in this kind of, like you said, like surrender, but not actually surrendering in a way. To me, that's how I see it, is like yes, you realize you release control, but that doesn't mean you kind of sit back and do nothing. Um, that there to
Yeah,
me, it's kind of a weird combination of like you're surrendering, but you're still participating. You're still making and doing the right things.
yeah, and I think what you just kind of touched on is that when it comes to fear, when we're alone, it's overwhelming. But when we're together, it kind of starts to diminish a little, right? So it's afraid or having fear of going through something alone. But when you're in a community or a group, or you have people that there's this kind of support structure around, or your fear becomes less anxious when you're going through it with somebody else. And I think that goes back to, this uh, belonging sort of thing, right?
Um, yeah, and I think that, I mean, part of that, and we all know, is because when, we navigate to people who might have gone through similar things as we have, like we're sort of talk about like co-creating or universal collaboration. It's kind of like when you're going through something and then all of a sudden you meet 10 people who like have had that experience or who have been through that exact same thing. And knowing and seeing a representation or hearing a story or seeing them like overcome whatever it is you're trying to, that's happening for you. First of all, it does instill that kind of hope. And then also reinforces that, okay, well, they're here in case, like they get it, and they're here in case I need them kind of attitude. And I think that that's a huge comfort to a lot of people or to everyone is to know. And that's why, I think support groups do great and all these other things, communities like this and other communities do so well, because I think we need to know that we have a group of individuals that are there. In the body, everybody knows I like to talk yoga in the body. So in the body, the back body, so your back, everything that's sort of like the opposite of looking at yourself in the mirror, everything that's behind you, so physically, is known as the universe. And so leaning back in yoga, or actually like surrendering back so that you sit back and you're not leaning forward. It's kind of like you're acknowledging that part that you can't see. You're actually feeling the support that whatever it is there to bring to you. And literally, in yoga, we refer to the shoulder blades as God's hands. There's the universal hands, partly because they're at the same level of the heart. And they kind of, when they merge in and they come in, instead of winging off and forward, when they come in toward the spine, they're actually coming in toward the heart center physically. And so drawing your shoulders back is kind of like that. We call it the universal embrace or the universal hug from the divine. And it would be great to get a hug from divine, but I'm not speaking about her right now. I'm talking about that support that you can draw from, that's always there and always present. And I know that when I'm going through a hard time, I always remind myself that I have to lean back, like physically. I'm like, okay, lean back. And the word surrender does come to mind, Jason. I have to surrender back. When you're moving forward, you're moving too much into the personal, the individual, the ego. You're kind of shielding yourself away from that physical support or universal support that's there. Seamus, please.
Yeah, just kind of was coming to mind as well. I'm never alone. Like just on that whole idea of united we stand, divided we fall type of thing. And again, the power of someone being in your corner. I think that's coming, like it's easier to navigate that when you feel there's someone holding your hand and someone, when things go a bit pear-shaped, there's someone there to connect with and to support you. And it's kind of the image of cells in the heart or cells in the liver or cells anywhere. Like you're a cell in the heart, but you don't need to run the heart on your own. You have lots of other cells there to assist you and to be there and together you run the complexity of the heart or you run the complexity of the liver. And I think sometimes in our lived experience, we feel like we're a single cell and we become overwhelmed because we're simply not designed to operate independently and to carry out the functions in a complex world. Like, a single cell can't run the full functions of a heart. And it's the same, like in our lived experience, I think, is that when we realize that and observe that and know that, I'm not meant to manage all this on my own. Like I'm only a single cell. I'm only a single person. There's great comfort in actually realizing, it's okay. And I think most of us, I think if not all of us, know there's someone when we realize that we can reach out to, and there's an instant payback of just simply making that, creating the space to simply notice, do you know what, it's okay, and I have X, Y, or Z person or people to help me or assist me in the same way as all the cells in the heart. They don't overthink or overanalyze. They just automatically know that there's cells around them that help them complete and collaborate in making the heart the best heart it can be, or the best liver it can be, or whatever. And I think, there's a great lesson for us as individual beings in the outside world to realize that all we need to do is to be the person that we're meant to be, and to connect with the other people in our lives in the most natural way possible. And I think that comes through the whole practice then that we've been talking about, of creating space to kind of, when you feel that you are the only cell, to quickly remind yourself you're not, and there are plenty of people around to share the burden or the load of the journey we're on, I suppose,
Seamus, as you were talking, I think you kind of reinforced something that, we've been talking about, and that is the importance of feeling like you belong somewhere. And I think that that's really what came to mind, is like you have that group, and if you don't have that group, you know, find ways to, like, connect with people here and talk to them or whatever, because I think it becomes such a valuable and kind of life enhancing and almost life surviving mechanism by which to navigate the world, is when you have a group and this feeling of belonging somewhere. I think that's ingrained in us from beginning of time, or our existence, was this feeling of belonging to a group. It meant survival on basically survival physically and emotionally, mentally, throughout time. We were not meant to go at it alone. And I think people saw that through COVID, when people were isolated, and all the different ways all of a sudden people got creative about connecting, through Zoom and through other platforms. Like, all of a sudden that became vital, to be staying connected to people and finding a place where you felt like you had a community, or you had a sense of belonging. Al, is it acronym time, Al? We're going to call it acronym hour. Acronym time.
Yeah, it's true. Always acronyms. Yeah. So the topic of this week is co-creation. So basically, when we bring our heart, so when the heart is our core, so core stands for the core objective, and creation. So co-creation means coherently realizing energy and transcendence in our nurturing. So it's important that the energy of the light that we bring in within ourselves, and the transcendence, that means we are moving from one path to another path. So we nurture it all along the way, at the present moment, as well as also the coming future. So again, a core objective is coherently realizing energy and transcendence in our nurturing. So this is what we should do in our human life. So we are not only nurturing whatever we are doing within ourselves, we're also assisting whatever the community that we are in, together with our friends and alliances, associates, our the entire world that we know. And yeah, that's what we should do in our life. Thanks.
Thank you, Al. As always, drop it in in the the chat, just so everybody has that wonderful acronym. I save them, so I really value them. Good reminders throughout my week of different parts of the conversation. But yeah, this whole idea of belonging, and that security of knowing that you belong somewhere. And I love that, Jason. We literally come into the world tethered to another human. And I think that you can look at, that from we come in this mutual, like, this connection, which is obviously so powerful. that we're born into. And then we're continually, kind of nurtured, hopefully, along that path, in some way or another. And if we can't find it through um, family, we find it through friends, we find it through connection to there's the ability to feel connected in multiple ways, as we go through life, to the earth, to animals. I think the other, everybody knows I love animals, and that's the other way or the other experience or demonstration of feeling that or noticing that connection. I mean, animals don't desert, when somebody's injured or fallen, they stay. I mean, from multitudes of animals um, that will stay when another animal is injured, and they will not leave that injured animal by itself. And I think it's a beautiful demonstration. My friend, I shared with Mary Jane, and I was going to use it on Monday for a post, but my friend is a big bird watcher. And she sent me a picture the other day of two woodpeckers, at one of her bird feeders, and one was feeding the other. And it was just amazing. And I think that we see that in nature so often, where animals really truly, or plants and growth, they do the same thing. There is this collaboration, this communication and collaboration that happens. Zara, did you have a comment?
Yeah, you were talking about co-creation, belonging, and COVID. And it kind of took me back to COVID actually, when I created this group called I and You Matter Friends. And then also because I was getting so many DMs, it was a lonely time. I ended up posting my WhatsApp, and a whole bunch of people ended up on my WhatsApp, and it was like WhatsApp after WhatsApp. It was a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, people were looking to talk to anybody. Like you say, they got quite creative about how to find that community. And then I ended up creating this group called Zara Kabiri Friends on my WhatsApp. But it didn't work, Jad. Do you know why? They
I'm
didn't
waiting.
know each other. They didn't know each other. So I asked them to introduce themselves to each other, but that didn't work either. Like what I noticed was they'd come out of that group and then start sending me like, they'd find out when my birthday was, they'd find out when, like, I don't know, there was some kind of celebratory Eid or something for the Muslims, and like stuff I don't even celebrate. And I was getting like constant messages like that. So coming back on my second round on LinkedIn, I thought, well, how can I do this differently? Because there's a big demand, and these were mainly men, Jan. It wasn't ladies doing it; it was mainly men. And I thought, how many of these guys are lonely out there, like looking for belonging, wanting to talk to somebody, and not having anyone to trust? Yeah. And it's not about having a discussion just for the sake. It's like they want a 4 o'clock, they want a 4 a.m. friend. So how do we go about helping people find a 4 a.m. friend when it's almost like they're lacking in communication skills? I mean, it's a massive problem out there. That's what I noticed. That's what I definitely noticed, especially in countries like the Middle East. I definitely noticed there's a massive problem out there. And so because they don't know exactly what's acceptable or how to communicate, a lot of ladies on social media are getting a lot of awkward messages and DMs. And then other people are blocking them and calling them all sorts of names. But these are people who are just awkward. They're just awkward in their communication style. So talking about creation and co-creation, it's taken me a long time to find a group of guys who want to help them. And I want to share a format that I tested that seemed to be quite, I don't know, not for the ladies so much. This is more for the men. And it looks like it's starting to pick up a bit of pace now. I mean, I've just been waiting for someone to do something. And like you say, you have to be involved. I don't know why this happens, but it's almost like you have to be in the center of it, get it up and running before you can leave it. I don't want to be involved in the men's kind of talks. I don't. There's stuff men want to talk about amongst themselves that I definitely won't get. It's not my place to be either. So I want to share some of the clips, like the storytelling, and then like help them grow in emotional intelligence to understand like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, like what to say, what not to say, and find out why they're feeling like this and how else they can help themselves. So yeah, watch that space. I'll update you where we are. But
Yeah.
it's taken a very long time, guys, to get that off the ground. So yeah, thank you for letting me share.
Oh, thank you, Zara. I think it does. I don't think I mean, it's a special group where you go in and automatically or right away do you feel a connection. Um, or maybe it's just that when you truly resonate with people, it's not like, you feel it right away. And I think we've all had that experience where we go in and we're like, oh, okay, these are my people kind of thing. And I think we've all been in situations where we go into a place and right away we're like, no, this isn't for me. And sometimes it's a business setting or a work setting, like a networking group, and you go in and you're like, nah, this isn't my style, this isn't who I am. Um, and sometimes it requires time, like you said, patience. And I think a lot of times what helps is a common, I'm going to say a common cause. I think that has the ability to unite people, whether that be like a common venture, like, I always think of volunteering or something like that. I think that people, when they're working toward a common thing, um, tend to connect. They're working towards something else. And in the meantime, and as they're working for something else, all of a sudden they develop those relationships, those bonds. And I always think volunteering is a great way to do that. Um, because I grew up in a house where, my mother's coined phrase when we were bored is like, you're bored, go out and help someone. That was her standard comment. Like, you can't be bored, go out and, do something for the world. Like, that was just the way, we were raised. So, okay, mom, you know. So yeah. So Divine, please. Good to have you back, Divine.
Thank you. Thank you, my love. I know we're pushing for time here. I was debating if I wanted to even say anything, but the community part is so important. I'm so glad that you guys brought it up. For me, I've been pulling a lot of myself inward and focusing on my inner circle of community, which meaning my neighbors or my children, as well. Because for those of you that don't know, I'm a single mom. So, school has just started back and there's a lot that has been going on emotionally, physically, financially. It has been taking a toll on myself. And today we're finally getting back into a better routine where I'm able to join and, early on Fridays. So I'm so grateful to be back here. Um, when it comes to consistency and reliability, I have always been the go-to person, and I think that some of us just carry that leadership role, but at the same time, a leader needs a community. A leader needs people to be beside them to take the lead as well. It's okay to step back and to rest and take care of yourself and, prioritize what is important to you and your family and be okay with somebody else taking the lead. I think that we have to, even when we talked about fear and control, it's the same thing, surrendering into somebody else's lead, whether that be a community, a friend, a God, source, whoever you feel is a higher power, it's all necessary to do so. And what Zara was saying too, I do feel like communication is a big thing. I feel like for me, we just need to be clear. We need to be clear and we need to be direct and be kind at the same time, and sometimes that may not even work. Take it from me, I've built a couple of communities that I've had in the past, and I was just the only one showing up and leading the way, and everybody wanted to hear what I had to say, but nobody wanted to, be in the conversation, to do the work, to do the healing, to take accountability. So it does take a lot of inner process, a lot of inner work in order for people to understand that the more you feel secure within yourself and the more that you love and accept who you are, you're able to commune and be in a community. Even if you feel like you're going through something that's terrible. I've been transparent more than I've ever been transparent in my life, and that's been difficult for me because I've always been the one to show up, to lead, you know, even in relationships, what I'm saying? Like this whole conversation can go so deep, but I won't take it there in this hour. But what I'm saying is that communication, reciprocity, mutual benefit is so important. And I talked to my daughter about this. I said, every human being is a flower. Every human being must be watered, nurtured, cared for, provided for. And a lot of people are doing lip service, but not taking action. And I think that's another big thing too, as well. So yeah, I'm taking accountability on my part to do what I can, as well as, healing myself with my health issues and taking care of my family. But it does take a whole complex, and getting into the details of this with community, it's a whole big spectrum to look at for sure within ourselves and with each other. So I'll end it there, love. Thank you.
Thank you, Divine. Really wonderful, wonderful words. And thank you for kind of bringing it all together in so many ways. I do think, yeah, that does happen. And communication, like in everything, is key. And that's not easy when we, let's say what's going on in our lives. It's all of a sudden talk about like, being exposed, like literally, um, being exposed. And Jason put one thing in the comments that I want to comment on because now as I say exposed, um, and I'm not sure I can find it. Oh yeah, he said leaning back is also opening up your front to accepting that which is in front of you, and also physically, like that is why, like, we end in yoga on our backs, basically exposed. And that, when I tell you, so many people are so uncomfortable with that in a public, like, especially if you're in a public class, people don't like to kind of just lay down open-hearted, open-chested, you know, and it's a very vulnerable space. And we are taught, I mean, how do many people walk? We walk rounded forward, looking down. I mean, standing upright and leaning back is a much more kind of vulnerable space to be in. So just as you navigate the world physically, just notice you can, where your body is. It's one of my favorite topics.
What
I
a
just mentioned as well, John, like inner knowing is it's so important, I think, as well, because I think belonging, like it's really important, but convincing ourselves to belong to a view that we don't read that isn't aligned with our inner knowing, that can be the dark underbelly of belonging too. So you belong to an external view that, something myself and Jason touched on earlier on a little bit as well, about playing the game outside and belonging to a group, but really not belonging authentically, really from your inner knowing. And I think there's great power in that. And that's where the courage comes in to, have the ability to be able to be aligned and have the courage to take a stand for what you truly care about, from your inside out through your inner knowing, and have the courage to be able to take that stand into the groupthink view, let's say, of maybe a group, an important group in your life that you're part of. And I'm thinking of business in particular. In my own case, when I felt I was in business, part of a business strategy team that I felt disconnected from, didn't have the courage to act or take a stand. And I think, over the years, you kind of, I want to have regrets, but I can recall how that didn't serve me. And, that's, I think, an opportunity that I'm sure everyone in the room here today has experienced, of experiencing the power of being ready to take a stand for what you truly care about, um, when something is literally doesn't resonate, or the group think doesn't align with what you really care about, and you have a choice. Do you stay silent, or do you actually share your perspective? And I think there's great power. It takes great courage, but there's great power in being able to take a stand and express a view, which leads to a dialogue. I think that's my own experience. And there's great benefits out of taking a stand. And you think you can't do it, but when you do, it's amazing that the payback of that, and the immediate payback, but maybe even the long-term payback in terms of relationship building and trust and all the rest.
Absolutely, Seamus. And I think that, in our book, Simply Becoming, I think each one of us had an experience of basically, trying to live within a confines that didn't sort of fit with who we were. Basically trying to wear clothes that were the wrong size. And, and then going and now trying to navigate from there. And each one of us, and I think many people here realizing that we couldn't do that. What we were sacrificing in doing that. And we were sacrificing ourselves, in doing so. And I think that comes with a whole myriad of issues of, feelings of inadequacy and insecurity and unhappiness and sadness, living a life that's really not what you were meant to live, or being in a group which doesn't resonate with you, and you had it in the work situation, and some of us have it in a more family situation where, literally, it doesn't have to be a work situation. It could be, your family or other circumstances, relationship where you stay and you're in this relationship and it's not, it's not the right person for you. We're getting close to 10:01, and I know that today we do need to end quite close to this time. Zara, did you have something quick you wanted to share?
It was just about what Seamus said about standing for something, and I completely concur. It does attract your tribe. However, it's getting that inner circle right, as you said, because there'll be people who will not quite in the right place. They might be aligned with what we think, but we could invite them, and then we'd end up spending all our time trying to get them to the right place. So I think that's eventually the conclusion I reached, was getting that inner circle right. That's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zara. Yeah, you can't drag people along. And sometimes in situations like, to me, like you're describing from what I understand, is we want so much for people and we see potential and we kind of like, but they're not there yet. And we can't, basically, you can't do the work for them.
That's so absolutely true. And this has been such an amazing, beautiful conversation today. Very inspiring. I've just really been taking in so many nuggets as people listening to people speaking about it. But it's so true. It's the old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So, you know, and sometimes we're that horse that doesn't want to drink because maybe we haven't you know, you know, gotten to that space of understanding what's happening. But I just wanted to say how much I appreciated all the insights that we gathered here today for sure. And just it's been a blessing to listen and partake.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. Oh, goodness, what a beautiful conversation. So we're going to move into a moment of reflection, meditation. So feel free to find a comfortable seat or lie down in a space where you feel supported. And if it's, feels right, lean back a little bit. And for a moment, just notice the back of the body, like feel it. Maybe you're standing up and you can go toward a wall or even a tree if you're outside and you can feel that physical support. Or maybe you're seated in a chair and you can actually lean back and feel the back of you. And then just kind of acknowledge or bring into your mind that, like, this idea of this essence of the universe. And if you want to label it as God or whatever else you want to kind of the divine, whatever you would like to call it. Allow your hands to rest gently, your body to soften against that surface, and your eyes to close if it feels safe. Take a long, slow breath in and release it gently, letting go of any tension, any noise from your day. With each breath, feel yourself arriving fully into this moment. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the gentle rhythm of your heartbeat, the quiet space that surrounds you and lives within you. Now bring your awareness to your heart. Feel it as a warm space, a living space, a sanctuary within you, a place of wisdom, clarity, and infinite potential. Rest here for a moment, simply feeling your heart beating, allowing it to be, inviting it to open. As your heart opens, bring to it the intention you wish to set today. It may be a desire, a goal, a calling. It may be, may I show patience with myself or my family? May I lead with heart? Just bring your awareness to that intention. Feel it fully. What would it mean to have it, to live it, to be it? Let your body, your mind, and your energy sense it is already present. Now imagine the universe standing with you in the space of your heart, listening, waiting, ready to co-create with you. You are not alone. You are not holding the vision by yourself. You and the universe are partners in bringing it into form. Silently or loud, offer your intention to this collaboration. Feel the resonance of your heart, your energy, your focus joining with the universe's infinite wisdom and power. And now, with full trust in this partnership, repeat the sacred affirmation. Beyond what I know and what I don't know, what I may think that I know and don't know. Beyond what I have said and not said, I am asking to receive exactly what I need. And so it is. Beyond what I know and what I don't know. What I may think that I know and I don't know. Beyond what I've not said. I am asking to receive exactly what I need. And so it is. Feel these words settling into the very core of your being. a seed planted deeply, ready to grow in alignment with what is highest and best for you. Breathe into this knowing that you are co-creating, that you are heard, that the universe is responding in ways beyond what you can imagine. Rest here a moment in gratitude, in openness, and in trust. When you are ready, slowly bring your awareness back to the space you are in, back to your body. Notice that support behind you. And feel free to open your eyes, carrying the sense of partnership. Thank you all for joining us today. Please take a moment to connect with both Mary Jane and myself. We would love to have a conversation. Our next workshop is, I think, September 7th, and I can't believe that it's so close. But yeah, and then we're going to be in person together, which is truly exciting, in October for a weekend in Canada. Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, with Darlene. So the three of us are doing a workshop together. So that's really fabulous. And so if you want to come across or if you're there, we would love to have you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, have a blessed weekend and a wonderful week, everybody, my friends. Yeah,
Thank you all for bringing your wonderful inspiration today, and have a blessed weekend.
yeah. We treasure you all.